Welcome to the Coffee Break Show. Today we are going to blow your mind. I have Dr. Pamela Gerali with us, and we are going to be talking about transformation and the blueprint for the human spirit. And we'll see you in a second. You are on the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. This is the Metadime Digital Network. This is the Coffee Break Show. Today we have Dr. Pamela Gerali. I'm going to just be calling her Pam from now on because we're just that formal. She is the author of this fantabulous book. I can't even say enough about it. I read so many books. This is The Dance of Ego and Essence. And what is in this book, we're going to be sharing a lot about today because I know that you and many other people want to have more peace, better relationships, more success. You want to have a deeper sense of meaning and know who you are in the world. And this book will help you achieve that. Welcome to the show today, Dr. Pamela. I am so happy you are here.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be with you today, Vicki. What a blessing and what a service that you do for those of us who are trying to make a difference. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Listen, I just want to dig right into it. I want to start there. I see you guys starting to jump on. Do me a favor, put your name down below. If you're listening on iHeartRadio or Pandora or Audible Live or wherever you are, welcome to the show. I know you're driving or working. Be safe. And we're so glad you're here. The book right now is going to be in the show thread right now. This is available for anyone. I think you can go right onto Amazon, The Dance of the Ego and the Essence. And trust me, by the end of the show today, you're going to want to get this book. I know it. So I'm enjoying this so much, but I have to go back to the very beginning for everyone. I want to know how exactly, why you wrote this book. What was your goal? What was your inspiration? I know you're going to talk about that inner guru guy, but I still want to talk about the inspiration you had for writing this.
Yes. Well, I had been sick with viral thyroiditis and I was down. I couldn't hardly do anything. I had no energy for almost 6 months. And for someone who's very energetic and very dynamic and used to doing a lot and accomplishing a lot, that was a low blow.
Yeah.
But I think it was the universe's way of saying, you haven't learned how to say no to all these other people who want you to do things for them and stay focused on your own work. So we'll help you. And so I was given this wonderful opportunity. And when I felt better, I asked the higher powers that be where I should begin, what I should do first, because I didn't know where to start again. And instead of picking up on an old project that I hadn't completed, I was instructed to get up early, go to my office, and journal confessions for 40 days.
Wow.
And I've been a spiritual teacher for quite some time. So that was like, really? I let go of a lot of stuff, and I didn't know why 40, because I thought it takes 21 days to create a habit. And there's a month and I hadn't been working. So 40 seemed a lot at that time.
It's kind of biblical.
Yes, it is very biblical. Mm-hmm. And when I did some research, I discovered that 40 represents rebirth. And that is huge. Rebirth. I mean, and that was the 40-day flood, 40 days in the wilderness, 40.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like there's a lot of 40. And gestation is 40 weeks.
Interesting.
So, yes, there's a lot of symbolism in the number 40. So I made a commitment and I came to my office, this beautiful sacred place where I work, and lit a candle just to focus, sat on my special chair and opened my mind, opened my heart for a couple minutes, and a word came to me, discipline. And I thought, really? I can't stand the idea of anybody telling me what to do or how to do it. And I thought, well, there's my first confession. So I grabbed my journal and I wrote the word discipline and that visceral reaction.
Yes.
And then I just wrote in my journal for an hour, all my experiences. It flowed out of me. And I will tell you that my book is almost unedited. It is almost,
Wow.
it was like it flowed right out of me.
Mhm.
And I just talked about how I had been punished very harshly as a child because
Mhm.
my parents were fundamental Christians. And
Yeah.
of course, if you do anything wrong, it's a sin. And of course, they're going to do everything they possibly can to keep you from going to hell, so to
That's
speak.
right. It's so
So,
true.
oh my gosh. So here I am writing about discipline. And I'm thinking about how my mother used to stand me in a corner. And when you are a hyperactive child, that's torture.
Yes, it
And I
is.
looked over at my desk. It's in the corner of my office, but it's beside the
Oh.
window where I could look out, and it didn't hold a charge
Ooh.
anymore. But I thought, am I doing this to myself? Still disciplining myself. But I wrote about how when we become self disciplined and how we learn how to say no, then we can say yes to something better,
That's so
something
true.
higher, something more meaningful.
Mhm.
And discipline is transformed into direction.
Oh God, I love that. Love that.
And every day a new word came to me, and every day I poured my thoughts, my experiences with radical honesty. And if you've read my book, you know that I bared my soul. It's like
Yes,
becoming
it
spiritually
is.
naked, so to speak.
It is so true.
And in the
Brene Brown
process,
is proud. That level of vulnerability. It really is.
yes. And by doing that, I feel like I'm giving other people permission to do the same. This is how
Absolutely.
you can get real with yourself.
And I want to talk about that for a second. This is so important what you did. I was talking with someone the other day and they were like, "What is your gift? What's actually your gift?" And I remember thinking to myself, my gift is the ability to be vulnerable and naked, warts and all, in front of the world and allow them to witness my transformation, ascension, whatever that is. And to me, that's the best, most hard work. When you're to the point where you're writing something that is so transparent, so vulnerable, people then can just, that's the whole point of reading this book. The thing that is so important about reading this book is you get the education, you get the transformation without having to go through the experience. If you've been through the experience, then you have the bridge between the experience and the transformation already laid out for you. That's the power of this book. This is why I love this book. And I actually love that you actually had to gotten to the point. I actually love that you've gotten to the point where you realized that your transformation was the most powerful thing you could share with the universe. And I want to talk to everyone out there and say, I agree with that. That is the most powerful thing we can do,
Yes.
is move through our own transformation and let other people see it. We let
Exactly.
other people see our successes. We can let them see that transformation. Thank you for that. I thought that was
Yes.
so powerful.
Yes. Well, I will be honest and say that I had no intention of sharing this when I wrote
Of
it.
course, that's always step one,
I mean,
isn't it?
who would do
Yeah,
that?
it's true. In the beginning, if they told you, "Oh, by the way, you're gonna share this with the world," you'd have been like, "Nope."
I'd have been censored.
That's right.
But through the process, I shared a couple of days. I started sharing it with friends, my soul sisters. And they said, "Oh my gosh, you realize that in reading what you wrote, we also were freed of this. We
That's
also
right.
experience that. We understand now
Yep.
how you can make that shift, how you can transform yourself, and how you can, by owning up to this stuff,
Yes.
let it go. I mean, talk
Yes.
about freedom. By halfway through this process, I will tell you that I was flying because it was so powerful to let go of so many things, to
Yes.
release all those
Yes.
hidden things, to own up to them. And there's this whole process that I think that first we have to own it. We have to own up to our crap, our
That's right.
stuff,
That's right.
so that we can let it go. We can ask forgiveness. We can see the benefit. We can shift from a negative experience or a failure or whatever into a positive and find the blessing in it.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. The source of how you wrote that, I don't remember what chapter it is. I don't remember, but it's the story about forgiveness. And the story about forgiveness, the part I'm going to remind you of is you were talking about your dad and him asking you to wash the car and you having the
Oh,
white dress on and the forcing you to wash it anyway, and
yes.
your sister's comments where and I my the reason it poked me is because my dad was a bully as well, and he was not a nice man. He was very, very mean and violent. But the expression of washing the car when you were done, and your sister saying, after your dad hosed you, said, your sister saying, well, that's going to make him love you more. I was like, oh my God, her insight was so on point. And at the end where you talk about how you resolved it with yourself, I actually got to a point where there was a memory I had forgotten. And I was like, oh, and all of it came back up as I was reading it. I even, there's a couple of chapters where you talk about how can we forgive people who assault children and
Yes.
women and this and that, and you're just and I really I've watched some of that in my family. I was like, yeah, those are traumatizing memories, but how can you forgive it and let it go?
Yes.
And that is such a powerful explanation for the transformation that happens. And what happened to me after I read that and let that go? What happened to me, the amount of peace that suddenly was inside me for not hanging on to it and allowing it, even if your logical mind can't make discern it, the soul of you knows. And that's what I like about the chapters. It's everyone who reads this book is going to find something that you just said. You have to be willing to own your crap. Sometimes you can't find what crap you need to own. And when you're reading the book, you start reacting to that chapter as you're reading it. That's your crap that you need to own.
Exactly. We
And
all
I
have the
love
same
how it's,
stuff.
it's so easy. Yeah. And so you can read it all at once because it's pretty riveting. But that's a lot of transformation at once, and smaller bites is a lot easier. You could read one, contemplate it, meditate it, move on. It's fantastically done that way. But I wanted to tell you, I think that's so important. The ability to look at what you could do to help yourself get what you want, which is peace and happiness and
Yes.
everything else through the technique that you did for the 40 days.
It was life-changing for me, and
It's
also for
life-changing for me.
others that have read it too. And, since I'm here to serve and I am here to share and I'm here to uplift humanity in my unique way, I know that this was a gift from the universe, and that every experience that I had that may have hurt so much
Yes.
in the past
Mhm.
has brought me to this point. I mean, what a blessing to
I
know
know.
that every lesson is really such a gift. And boy, is it hard to uh, face that. I mean, in my book, I wrote about things that I never told a soul before.
Wow. Just wow.
And as they came up, then it was so freeing. And I think that is it. We let it go on another level because we've all done a lot of work. We've been through a lot of healings. We have let go of things. We have faced different things. But this, I believe, shifts it to a whole nother dimension.
It's absolutely the most empowering transformation that I've read since probably The Power of Now.
Wow.
And I mean the original Power of Now, not the second version,
Right.
the original one that came out in 2000.
Yes.
Barb Tomlin says her book is downloading to my Kindle now. Thanks for the heads up, Vicki. Not only
Thank
that,
you.
Barb Tomlin put inside the Amazon link to Dance Ego Essence Confessions Divine ebook is on there. You can also get the hardcover book, which thank you, by the way. But I want to let everybody know, because I'm going to just be bragging. I got her to sign it. That's right. I got the signed author copy. That's right. And I want to continue to say thank you for sharing the gift. Absolutely. This is what it's about. It's about, we're in the world right now where the evolution of consciousness and the concept you hold of yourself, this is what this book challenges. To me, what happens is we learn all the concepts of ourselves that are outside of us. We learn what other people, we are a lot about what other people tell us we are, what concepts we learned about how we are in this world. And when you actually unhook yourself from that, you actually, for the first moment, get to feel something different that is you. And what you realize by reading this book is that you've learned the concept of who you're not. And that the part of you that is this dynamic, amazing soul that is so capable of doing something in the world that makes a difference to you and others, and be just like Dr. Pamela says right now, if we're looking at making and serving this portion of you, you have to have. You can't serve your purpose. You can't serve your higher meaning with somebody else's concept of you.
Right.
So let's talk about the blueprint for the human spirit. Let's talk about that. Let's dig right in and uncover, and let's go a little deeper inside this blueprint. How did this download for you? How did you come up with this system, if you will?
Yes. Well, like I said, I was raised in this very fundamental Christian church, and it's very negative, and it was extremely limiting. I was from a small town also, so my worldview was about the size of a pea. And we were allowed to listen to religious or classical music. I studied voice, sang classical for quite some time. And but basically there were so many thou shalt nots. And and of course we were threatened with eternal
damnation,
hellfire. So I was raised with what I call the unholy trinity of guilt, shame, and fear.
Yes.
And this whole process has freed me of that. But after I went to college, of course, I left all that behind, and I focused on my career as a nurse. And I had a master's degree in public health, and I worked for a lot of health organizations like the American Cancer Society and Prevent Blindness America. Mm-hmm. And I went up the ranks in leadership roles. So I had a lot of experience with program planning and leadership, and it was amazing. And I loved it. And I felt like I was making a difference. But my life was totally devoid of anything spiritual. And my older sister studied spirituality and healing techniques, but she did not talk to me about it because she knew I wasn't ready.
Interesting. You have to be ready to receive that. That's so
have
true.
To be ready. And so I was given a chance to go to the Center for Creative Leadership in Greensboro, North Carolina. And it was the first, have you ever been there? or heard
No.
about it? Oh,
Mm-mm.
amazing place. And I don't know whether it's still functional or not, but I participated in an ongoing program called um, Leader Lab.
Mhm.
And so we got together, spent a week together, then we came back and we journaled. I journaled for the first time. I did visioning for the first time, did nature walks, identified these commandments that are playing in my head. We did self-examinations. I had to do 8 hours of testing. And the people that I worked with, my subordinates and my peers and my superior, had
Wow.
to answer questionnaires, and my friends. I
Wow.
learned some things I didn't like about myself.
Absolutely. I think everybody has that. Oh gosh, those blind
Ah,
spots. They're blind for a reason.
yes. I mean, I was a bulldozer in the workplace. I just pushed, pushed, pushed to make things happen. You can
Guilty.
relate. But after that, I went back to my workplace and I realized that my job was no longer compatible with my new vision. So I quit just
Yeah.
like that, let it all
Wow.
go. I'd just gotten married about a year before and I didn't have to worry about paying the bills. I let it go and I went down a spiritual path. And the first person I called, of course, was my sister.
Oh, wow, of course you did.
Course.
Fantastic.
And I said, where should I start? What should I read? And the very first book, of course, this was back in the 90s.
Oh my God,
She's,
you're just blowing my mind.
yes, she said, well, here's a book, read The Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. It was
Of
awesome.
course. Of course.
So back then, and since then, I read everything I could get my hands on. I went to every workshop I could get to, every expo. I
Amazing.
studied every teacher. I tried everything. The whole time, I was fearful. I was afraid that I would be led down a wrong path.
Oh my God, I went through that too. You're going to hell. You're being led
Yes,
astray. The Satan's
yes.
got your mind.
So I had all this fear.
Mhm.
And then after a couple years, I was awakened in the middle of the night, about 3:30, when the
Oh my
skies are
God,
clear.
you're blowing my mind. Go ahead.
Same thing with you, huh? So here I was, I
Exactly.
would
It's
be
so
awakened.
mirrored. It's unbelievable. So what happened at 3 in
Oh,
the morning?
information started flowing in. I laid there for about an hour and a half, and then I got up and I typed it into my, entered it into my computer. For 6 months, 3 or 4 days a week, I received these downloads. And it began with a simple mind, body, spirit triangle. And then it kept growing and growing. And then it would start with just a list of ideas and concepts. And then it kind of formed into a chart, like a
Wow.
matrix chart. And it
Wow.
kept going and kept growing until I now have a beautiful matrix. I call it the blueprint for the human spirit. And it evolved in harmony with my growth. Every time I received information, it was the universe provided a chance for me to integrate it and learn it, and fully seed it into myself. So here is this beautiful evolving thing. I didn't even know what sacred geometry was, but
Wow.
I had all these shapes, tetrahedrons and spheres, and it just kept growing and growing. And the thing about it is that this blueprint, it's not a religion or anything like that, but it's compatible with ancient teachings and new
Brilliant.
science and Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. It's about our inner landscape. And it answered all my questions. Our first question, who am I? Well, one aspect of the blueprint, the personal one, clearly tells us who we are and how to live authentically.
God, that's so
And
beautiful.
then we have a question, why am I here? Well, the social realm explains that and tells us how we can serve compassionately and
Mhm.
give of ourselves and use the special talents that we have. I mean, this blueprint is so powerful. And I have a very basic chart on my website. If you go to offerings under Blueprint, you can actually print a copy of this. But each one of those little cells, each one of those 25 cells, is just gobs of information about how and what and where, and it is so awesome. And I think I was chosen to do this. This is why I'm here, to
That's
bring
right.
all the pieces together.
That's right. You go,
Because
girl. Speak it.
every time I've read a book, here's a little piece, and here's another piece, and
That's
here's
right.
another piece. Well, here it
Here's it
is
all
all
together.
together.
I want to talk about that because this is the point of reading this book. We talked about this earlier. The blueprint, Dr. Pamela Gerali.com /blueprint. Now, if you're driving, if you're listening on the radio, whatever, relax. It's in the show notes. We have it there. The book's in the show notes. The link is in the show notes. Everything that you want to know about Dr. Gerali. So it's in the show notes. Relax and drive safe. So here's what I want to say. I want to go back to what she said. There is a point where the greater you is hidden underneath the pile of concepts that you learned as a child. What she just said was so important. She grew up in a fundamentally Christian home. The guilt, the shame that she experienced in her life, etc., that's somebody else's concept of you. It's not who you are. But what happens when you read this book is that you start moving away those concepts so that you can meet this person that's inside you, that is divine, that is amazing, that has meaning and purpose, and was sent here with all these gifts to share with the world. And then you realize at the end, just like she said, just like Dr. Pamela said, at the end, I realized that every experience I went through was helping me to get here, and that I was actually born to share this system with everyone else. I believe absolutely everyone in the world has that gift inside them, hidden underneath all of the deceptions, the lack of forgiveness, the 40 days of, sitting down and confronting yourself, and what discipline means, and what you learned, and becoming the wholeness that you actually are. That's the power of reading this book. It's about letting go of the BS that your mind conceived of you as, and becoming what you actually are. And then the blueprint is about allowing that out in the world. It's meeting yourself from that place. This, to me, is what makes her a transformation expert. And you guys know that I am a transformation Nazi. I am so absolutely, I think that being able to transform is the greatest of superhuman powers. And once you understand transformation, first you and your world and what you want, then other can model that from you. Then you have created that's the superhuman power right there, what she's talking about. The book uncovers that superhuman power. And that's why I am absolutely, and you guys know I have authors on all the time. How many times am I holding somebody's book and saying, read this book? Read this book if you want more happiness. Read this book if you want more success. Read this book if you want to be able to sleep at night and not have somebody else's anxiety running your life. Read this book if you want to absolutely fall in love with who you are.
Yes.
Do you ever see me say that a lot? I'm saying it now. Read this book. If you don't read another book this year, read that book. And go get it on the Amazon link. Listen, I'm not making any money at all from selling that book. Just read the book, and you could feed a poodle or something. Just read the book, and your whole life you can find that your whole life has become this gift, that you are the gift. The whole thing is there. I want to go a little bit deeper into the process of the blueprint, because I think that once you get to the point where you are in the Native Americans thing, when you do a sweat and you are out on the hill for 3 days, you have to come in with brand new clothes, because you become a brand new person. But I also know that when I'm a brand new person, the past concept of me is so ingrained sometimes that I kind of have to police this to make sure it doesn't come marching back in because I'm unaware, or I'm in my day, or I'm reacting from a past experience. I want to know, what can we do? Maybe 3 tips people have to understand that once they become a new person, they haven't quite yet forgotten the old person, and that old person can sneak back. What do we do to remember always that we're the new person that we have created or that we're meeting in ourselves?
Mhm. Well, there are a number of things we can do, but one thing is not to beat up on ourselves when we make a mistake and forget.
Mm-mm.
And I used to think that I had to be perfect. And there is a chapter in my book about perfectionism and how we learn that we are perfectly imperfect because we are human, but we are also divine. And certainly we need to keep reinforcing the fact that when we look in the mirror, instead of seeing our faults or seeing our shortcomings or seeing anything that is limiting about us, that we see God, that we see essence, that we see beauty, that we are divine. I mean, I was told so many times as a child that I was an unworthy sinner,
Oh,
and
God. Yes.
nobody ever said anything about my original divinity. Nobody ever said that, that
Yes.
we
Yes.
are
And in fact,
born.
that's how we forget it, isn't it?
We were told so many of the negatives, but we are created in the image and likeness of God.
You go,
And so
girl.
when we look in the mirror, look in your eyes until you see your own divinity.
Mm.
And when you look in another person's eyes, look into their eyes until you see their divinity.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then your perception changes
I
and
want to
you
talk.
really can love yourself.
I want to talk. I want to go a little deeper with this as well, because um, this week has been really the week where the spotlight has been put on somebody that the world lost recently, that they loved, and she died of a mental illness. Whether it's suicide or not, I don't care. It's mental illness. And Naomi Judd was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame on Sunday and had died on Saturday of that mental illness. And I think part of the mental illness, that depression, that anxiety that people are feeling right now, the uncertainty, this is the point where the pressure is on and your mind can run off with your reason and who you actually are.
Right.
And what I want to talk about is what somebody can do who's experiencing a certain amount of pain. And I don't want to say struggle. I want to say pain, because pain is the struggle.
Mhm.
And you're wanting to tap into your divinity, and maybe you don't think you have it or are it. And that's why I think if you're in this spot right now, you read this book too. I mean, I'll have her answer the question, but take a moment and help yourself. Read this book. And so what happens is, I want to be able to talk to those people that are under pressure and feeling anxious, suicidal, where there is a point of despair at losing absolutely everything, or maybe something traumatizing happened to them. It's
Mhm.
easy to be spiritual. It's easy to be in your divine when everything's going well and you have a lot of
Exactly.
success. And it's when you're in the mud, in the dirt, in the crap, in the excrement, that is what I'm asking. How do we pull ourselves out of that when we're in our crappiest self? Or even if we're ragefully angry, when we've lost ourselves.
Right. And I think that calls for us to find a still point.
Mm,
Because when we can find a still point, we are in this moment. We are not in the past where we are focusing on all the negatives and all the baggage and all the blocks and all the blunders that we've made. And
Yeah.
we're not worried about the future and the unknown and what we have to face. So if we can, through breath, take a breath and find this still point, this moment, then we can be present. And in this moment, everything's okay because there is no past and there is
That's
no
right.
future. It
That's right.
just is now. And
And
when
that's
we
beautiful. You are isness. There is now. That's true. The divinity of you is isness, and the only place it is here-ness and nowness.
exactly.
Wow.
So
Yes.
bringing yourself, bring it all in instead of looking at the whole landscape of everything that anybody's ever said, anything you've ever done. And even after I finished this book, there's an epilogue in it. It's called From Arrogance to Grace. And
Mm,
even after flying and releasing all this stuff, I did something so awful, uninspired, and unconscious, and hurt somebody's feelings and everything else that I had to bring myself back. But it was like a wake up call. This is how we humble ourselves and focus ourselves
mm,
and learn how to just be present so that we can forgive ourselves again, because we're going to make mistakes.
mhm.
That's just our nature. We do that. But when we quit seeing all the past, when we quit focusing on the future, I think anxiety and fear can be
Cease.
greatly reduced.
Agreed.
And the blueprint offered a process to me that helped me understand how we shift from fear to freedom
Mhm.
and how we go from separation, because every fear that we experience is based on a perception of separation. We think we're
That's
separated from
correct.
God, we're separated from others, we're separated from the source of all good. And when we feel separate, when we believe that we are separate, which, physically speaking, we almost have to believe that, until we understand that we are energy beings, that we
Yeah,
are light beings, that we are essence, we are God expressed. We're the hands and the heart and the voice of God here on earth.
that's right.
But we
I love
can
that.
move from fear, where we respond usually in a negative way and we become attached to things and we have addictions to things.
Yes.
And then when we kind of learn life's lessons, sometimes we have really tough lessons because these addictions or attachments may take us clear down to the bottom
You got it.
before we can bring ourselves up. And in the process, then we can learn and grow about who we are. And when we start seeing ourselves not as finite beings, but as infinite beings with infinite potential
Mhm.
to express the love that we are and let our light shine to the degree that we can, it takes a shift in perception. And one of the things also that happens to me and has helped other people, I discovered that I was intuitive and I was given a gift of intuitive healing. I call it spiritual blueprinting. And before I called it spiritual blueprinting, I called it dramatic intuitive healing because, and it is very dramatic because I can be with someone and I just sense things and feel things and know things.
Yes.
And my body goes into motion. I become like a mirror. I speak in first person because it's your higher self telling you what
Mm.
you need to know and what is going on, so that creates greater awareness. And my body goes into motion and I act out what I'm sensing.
Oh my gosh, my hair is standing up.
And in
Wow.
the process, when this comes to light, there is a moment where we can make a shift, use funky imagery or activities or mental ideas or thoughts and shift. And healing is almost exclusively a shift in perception.
That's correct. It's and attention and point of view and focus. You're
Yes,
absolutely that is healing right there.
that is healing.
That excited me. I got really excited by that.
Yes,
That's the truth.
yes.
It's simple.
It is changing how we view things, how we view it is about
Yes.
loving ourselves. And when we release all this baggage, like we've done in this book, and embrace the essence of our being, the truth of our being, then we can live in a way that is authentic, that is compassionate, that is conscious, that is creative. And then we are free to be all that we are, all these superpowers. But like you said, transforming ourselves is the greatest gift that we can give to the world.
It is.
Letting go of everything, knowing who we are and why we're here, and living, bringing our body, mind, heart, gut, soul into alignment so that we are not fighting the truth.
That's
And
right.
I will tell you something interesting. I have hanging in the wall of my powder room some story people prints. I don't know whether you've ever seen them, but they're kind of funky little illustrations with interesting little quotes. And there's one with a woman that has one lower body and then has 3 torsos. And the caption says, if I could only get myself to agree on something, life would be easier.
Yeah.
And I thought that is perfect, because that is, so many times we're doing things that are in opposition to what we think and what we believe or what we feel or what we know, which is different from what we believe.
Agreed.
And what is true with regard to the essence of our being. So anyways, that was just a funny little thing, but we need to bring into alignment. And certainly the spiritual blueprinting is such a gift. It is transforming. And certainly it's another way that I serve. And but I truly want people to experience this life-changing process.
Yes.
Where we can free ourselves from all this baggage, all the blocks, all the bluffs. I mean, how many times do we bluff our way through something? The old quote, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck and acts like it, walks like a duck, it's a duck. Well, we've bluffed our way through. We sometimes we pretend to be holier than we are. And so we need to let go of that too. And then we have to remove the blinders, because we see through the eyes of other people who have told us about ourselves, who have limited us, who have censored us. And certainly when we can free ourselves of those things, we can fly. We are free to just be this beautiful divine diva and dance in this a way that makes a huge difference in our lives and in the lives of other people.
This is such an important conversation that we're having right now. It's so important what you've said, because one of the things that I think a lot of people are buffaloed into believing is that, and the reason they're afraid of transformation and they want to just be the same, or they bluff their way through things, is because they think they are nothing, which is a concept they learned from somebody else. It's not actually true. And that actuality, uncovering that actuality and the happiness that it brings to you. And I want to let you know, not every second of your moment of your life is happy, 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 happy. Sometimes we're discerning. Sometimes we're having to overcome. Sometimes we're having to confront. And I like Lisa Nichols' word for it. She says carefrontationally. Carefrontationally means kindly confronting yourself so that you can go to the next level. But what happens with the happiness is that when you get to your basic core self, happiness is who you are in your stasis.
Yes.
So you're not trying to find happiness. You're not trying to overcome anxiety. You are that. What's happened is that all the stuff that she's talking about that's on you is blocking you from the stasis of happiness. So happiness is what you are. And when there's a little pinch of something, you can get rid of the pinch and you go back to being happy. You don't go sink into this mounding depression that goes down. You go back to this place of happiness. For those people who are experiencing, oh, I do want to go over here for a second. Our audience has been,
Yes.
thank you, Robin. I love distilled the lessons daily versus sitting and reading all at once. I do too. I think it's a super powerful read. I want to let you know this sits in our coffee table in the living room. And if I'm having a stressful day, I don't even try to see what thing I need to read. I just open it up. And if it says day one, then I read day one. If it says day whatever, I read the day that's there in front of me. And that always helps me come back to center, remember who I am. It's not just a book, it's a tool to help you walk the bridge from this concept to the new concept. And here's the thing. It's actually uncovering the concept of who you really are. It's not a new concept. It's who you actually are. And the powerful you comes out of it. Barb Tomlin, thank you for this. Oh, my sweet Naomi, I think the answer is in understanding unconditional love. Powerful words in her song, Love Can Build a Bridge. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. I loved her. Just say no to stuff. If you can dust it off and it is in toxic storage in your life, give it to bless someone, be in tune with your spirit and shift and heal. That to me is a big deal. This is where we're headed in this world right now. Healing is always a shift in attention. That is such an important, right there, attention, perspective, and focus. And I want to talk about why this book is so powerful, because healing happens just like that. It's like we've made it so complicated to become awake. We've made it like this ultra, I got to be 30 years in therapy just to get over what happened in my little. No, it can happen just like that. You are more empowered than you know about. And the thing about reading books that are about transformation and what Dr. Gerali is about, transformation is a skill set. It's not something it's a skill set that you learn. And you have to want to come out and master your mind instead of your mind mastering you. Now, for those people who are are maybe going through something tough, I know that when I have a reaction and I am stressed out or angry or sad or in some way, I want to say this very clearly. I do not say I am depressed. I don't say that. I won't even I won't say I am angry. I will say I feel defensive right now. I'm feeling it. Not I am it. I'm feeling it, because I do not want to cover up the essence of who I am. Reading the book switches you from believing that you're the concept in your mind to meeting who you actually are, to realizing that your mind is here to serve you, not control you. So, Barb, super excellent show today, Vicky. So glad I was able to catch it live. Thank you. God, that I appreciate those feedbacks. I know that you're all on the other channels doing everything else, and I'm not there. I'll reply afterwards. But I'm so excited that we're having this conversation, because it's a powerful time to be able to. Everybody talks about wanting to transform their life and have something better, more, greater, whatever. But what if who you are is the better, more, greater thing that you actually want? So I want to go back to the isness, the here-ness, and the now-ness of you-ness. Now, in the you-ness, I want to talk about and we're down to the last 10 minutes of the show. So if you guys have a question you want to ask Dr. Pam, you just let me know. Pamela is here with us, and well, I promise you'll be able to connect with her after the show. We'll get her everything there. So if you have a question and you're in the group, somebody's asking, is the book on Audible too? That was fast.
Not yet, but I
Not yet.
intend to put it on Audible.
Tell me you're the one who's going to be reading it for Audible. You think
I've
you're going to
been
hire somebody, or are you going to
told
read it?
to.
I think it needs, because there's something magic about the tonality and the divine that comes through your voice specifically, and I feel more empowered listening to it. And you know how you can read a book and hear somebody's voice in your head? So
Yes.
now that's really, it's a great one. Yeah. So
Yes.
soon it'll be out on Audible as well.
Yes.
But everybody, I implore you, if you want to make a difference in your world, if you want to really have more success, if you want to grow and know, I want to let you know, I have spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands up into the six figures, thousands and thousands of dollars on transformation and people and everything else. And you, for the price of this book, can save thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, being able to learn how to meet yourself. And the way we meet ourselves is that your isness, the thing that you are, can only be revealed in the here-ness and the nowness. And I want to talk about, I don't even know how to say it, whether it's past or present, but in ourselves, we have a tendency to lose ourselves when we inadvertently go past, is where I think we lose ourselves, or if we go too far off in the future. I think future viewing is good, but far off in the future, we lose the nowness. And when
Right.
we lose the nowness, we lose a sense of ourselves immediately. And I want to know, I know that still point, I want to go back to the still point and say, can you go a little deeper in what the still point is? And I know it's a breathing, but is the still point a technique for bringing you back just into the moment? And when you're in the moment, what can you do to be truly in the moment? And because your mind's going to come back on and go, yes, I know you're here now, but. And so what I want to know is, what kind of techniques, will this be in replay? Yes, it will be. You can replay this and watch it all and read the book. So I want to know if you could give us a last thing.
Yes.
When we lose ourselves, what can we do to bring ourselves back to what you call the still point?
Yes, back to center. Well, I believe that when we pause, it's like pausing in the moment, in the now, in the present, and in the presence, which is what happens when we come to still point. We're in the presence
That's
of
correct.
the divine, as well as a moment of awareness within ourselves, so that we're not worried about anything. We are just present. And we can do that through a breath and through a focusing of our mind. And we can do it through motion. It's like just do a little dance or something, so that we can feel, my book is The Dance of Ego in Essence. And certainly in that still point is where we know essence. When we're busy worrying about the past and focusing on the future, and fearful about what we don't know, we are in ego, so to speak. We're in not at our best self at this particular moment. Mm-hmm. But when we are at this still point, then we know essence. We see what we are. And there's all of this about, I had a very interesting experience where I was a child at the feet of Jesus when he said, "Let the children come to me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven."
Mm.
And in that moment, I knew what that meant, because essence is what we are. And it is that joyful, playful, loving, unconditionally loving, curious, open minded, like a child, just like and they live in the moment.
Yeah.
And that is what it is like to be in essence. We can dance this beautiful dance of life. We can express the love that we are. We can embrace
Mm.
the creativity that we have within us so that it will flow from us. And we can just be present to find that. So that is how I try through my moments of meditation, which I'm not good at because I'm so hyper. But when,
That's why I use the word contemplation.
yes,
Easier.
contemplation. So we take a breath, and that brings us to this perfect place where we know who we are and what we are and why we are here. And in that moment, then all we have to do to live purposefully is to show up wherever we are as love, as the hands and the heart and the voice of God.
Beautiful.
So, in doing that, you know, that certainly turns things around. But first, we have to look inside so that we can then share the love that we are.
Mm.
And then here we are, living purposefully, realizing our highest potential, loving unconditionally, and being that presence, being the hands and the heart and the voice of God.
Mm.
So I want everyone, like you said, to experience this. And certainly you don't have to go through the pains that I have, uh, because it took me a long time to get here. It's been, 20, 30 years, practically. And, but you can benefit so much by clearing your soul and discovering more about your divine blueprint and who you are so that you can show up and make a difference in the world. This is,
Oh God, my heart is so full right now. Robin, would you do me a favor? And Pam, would you do me a favor and tell everybody if they want to work with you, if they want to be connected to you,
yes,
where can they go? And Robin,
yes,
when you put it in the show notes again.
yes. My website is Dr. Pamela Gerali, GERALI.com. And certainly you can find all of my books. And I have a companion journal that's so awesome. I have recorded meditations for each of the 40 days plus the
Oh,
epilogue,
wow.
and they will soon be out. They are so powerful. And certainly under offerings is where you will find a copy of the blueprint and information about the blueprint. But on my homepage, the very first thing you can do is to scroll down a little bit and download a copy of this free ebook called A Blueprint for Conscious Compassionate Living. And that will give you a little more information about the blueprint and certainly give you a little greater understanding. And we have to take information, though, and have experiences. We have to feel it and in
Yes.
order to integrate it.
Yes.
And that's a whole other discussion.
Yes, it is. But
But
I can't wait. I promise you guys, I'll have her back on. This isn't the only time. I'll have her back on. It'll be a few months out, but we'll have her back on.
yes, and one
Listen,
other thing
go ahead.
on under offerings is spiritual blueprinting. That is my intuitive healing work, and it is my gift to the world again.
Thank you. I gotta say, my heart is so full. You guys, everything, wherever you are, iHeartRadio, if you're on Pandora, Spotify, wherever you are today, don't worry. Every one of the links you just talked about is in the show notes. It's in the thread under the show. You can definitely gain a lot of wonderfality working with Dr. Pamela today. That's my new word, wonderfality.
Wonderfality.
Yes, right. So it's like I want to talk to the people out there watching the show. You do not have to go through this alone. You do not have to suffer anymore. You do not have to absolutely believe what everybody's told you about who you are in the past.
That's right.
You can change your life. You can transform, and you want to work with somebody. You want to work with somebody who has experience with this. And Dr. Gerali is the person that has wrote the book on it, is experienced that, and can help you with this blueprint, transform your life and have a different view of yourself, meeting yourself in the most divine piece of you. And today, this is where we are moving to as a world, working, living, and becoming from this place where we are right now. I want to let you know transformation is the greatest of superhuman powers. Everybody has the ability to transform. I want to say thank you for being here. I always love when you're on our shows. I love it. And I just
Thank
want to
you.
say it is absolutely a pleasure to talk with you.
My honor and pleasure to be with you. Blessings.
All right, you guys, this has been the Coffee Break Show. And next week, we're going to have somebody brilliant, some really brilliant person who's going to make a difference in your life. We'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us today.